Coming up on Factory Made, how cotton gets pulled, twisted, dyed, and torched long before it's cut into blue jeans. And how a little tough love turns out a trumpet with perfect pitch. Then, right down to the laces, each one winds up exactly the same. But getting these footballs into the NFL's end zone is no easy score. Everybody has their favorite pair of jeans. The average American owns about 8, in all shapes and sizes. Denim fabric was born in Europe in the 1600s. But it was in California during the gold rush that it was first cut into a pair of jeans. The rugged material caught on like gold fever among prospectors, and from that moment on, denim jeans have been a cool American classic. Today, the American Cotton Growers Textile Mill in Littlefield, Texas is the largest denim producer in the U.S. They weave enough of the fabric to stitch up more than 26 million pairs of jeans a year. Each pair starts in the field where cotton is grown and picked. Cotton gets a thorough cleaning to filter out any debris from the field. Who wants leftover stems or seeds in their jeans? So these bales of raw cotton are sent to the cotton gin. Gin is short for engine. First, the gin loosens the fiber, removing stems and leaves. Inside, the cotton moves through a big comb, separating the seeds from the good stuff. The tufts are blown in a 14-hour fluff cycle, getting rid of any remaining fragments. It may seem like overkill, but debris left in the cotton can make the color uneven, and worse, cause thread breaks during weaving. The cleaner the cotton, the higher the grade it gets, and the higher the price. But there's still a long way to go before this cotton becomes denim. First, it has to be spun into yarn. As a web starts forming, it gets twisted into a loose rope called a sliver. The sliver endures a lot of twisting, winding, and coiling. Then it's off to the spinning machine, where it gets stretched and spun into yarn. Inside, it's a rough ride. Rotors whiz at 70,000 RPM, about as fast as some jet engines. The rotors pull on the loose fibers and twist them tightly into yarn. For every inch of sliver, the machine produces nearly 8 feet of yarn. Next, about 360 spools are wound together for dyeing. Each spool holds 50 yards, so that's about 10 miles of yarn winding its way through the factory. Before any dye job, the yarn gets a hot bath in sodium hydroxide. It strips out any natural waxes and oils that could make the coloring uneven. Now the yarn dives into a froth of indigo dye. It looks like a vat of blueberry jam, primed to stain miles of cotton. The Egyptian pharaohs used indigo from plants on their royal garments. Now, a synthetic form is available to all commoners, giving denim that classic dark blue hue. After machines rinse and dry the blue yarn, it's time for weaving on the hyper-fast looms. This is where all that cotton becomes a classic denim fabric. It's a long journey for cotton to become denim. 12 days and a whole lot of shaking, cleaning, spinning, and dyeing. And it's all about to come together here inside the weaving room. These looms are working around the clock. Each one cranks out 640 yards of fabric a day. Enough to craft 500 pairs of jeans. Classic denim is actually a blend of indigo-colored thread and undyed white thread. The combination was supposedly designed to save money or create a softer jean. Either way, the look is now classic. The looms weave at lightning speed, but when they're slowed down, you can see the weaving process more clearly. The vertical colored threads alternate moving up and down on the loom. Meanwhile, a white thread shoots between the colored threads and across the weave horizontally. At regular speed, the woven denim flies off the loom at 150 yards a minute. Denim usually gets pre-shrunk before getting stitched up. Without it, that perfect fit wouldn't last past the first trip to the washing machine. How does something become pre-shrunk? Dampened denim passes between compression rollers that squeeze the threads closer together. Then, steam heat dries the shrunken fabric. Rollers keep the fabric constantly moving, applying heat to both sides of the denim. This keeps the drying process consistent, allowing the fabric to dry evenly without warping or wrinkles. Then, after all this hard work, the material gets torched. But just for a second. It's to singe off all that extra fuzz from all the yanking during the looming process. After passing through fire, this denim is done. Most of the good stuff here will get shipped off to clothing manufacturers, but some is kept to make jeans for employees and product samples for customers. It takes about 1 1/4 square yards of denim to make a pair of jeans. A typical pair has 21 pieces. Zippers are standard, but only since the 1950s. The original jeans had button flies. Not jeans yet, not without pocket rivets to reinforce stress points in the stitching. Denim rivets were so revolutionary in the 1800s, they got their own patent. Fresh off the line, the jeans look perfect. Maybe a little too perfect and stiff. They need a good roughing up if they want that lived-in look. That requires a specialist. He styles with sandpaper to scuff the pant legs and seat. Then, he powers up a rotary tool to fashion some premature frays in the fabric. And the final stroke. Stonewashing to mimic years of wear. The jeans roll around in an industrial washer along with an equal weight of pumice stones. This volcanic rock is ideal because it's lightweight and abrasive. Of course, it can also do a number on the washer. This protective metal lid keeps the glass door from shattering. What began as a perfect denim weave now ends as a perfectly flawed pair of blue jeans. And a perfect addition to any wardrobe. The trumpet. Its distinctive sound has been around for ages. This is a small horn with a big musical range. And flourish too, thanks to all its twists and turns. Today, it takes more than 100 parts and 4 days to make just one out of yellow brass. This metal alloy is soft, easy to bend, and knows how to carry a note. At Conn-Selmer in Elkhart, Indiana, musical instruments are its only business. Today, trumpets are getting ready for their debut on the assembly line. It takes a lot of pressure to mold one of these, 3,000 pounds. That's at least 200 times the pressure needed to break your bones. The bell, or the rounded part at the end, is the big player in the trumpet. Its shape determines what kind of tune the instrument will carry. To get the bell in form, a craftsman pounds the brass around a steel mold called a mandrel. The length of the tube affects the pitch of the trumpet. Here, shorter means higher. All the parts need a tight fit, so no air will escape. Notching the edges creates a strong seam. Soldering paste is added to the mix and sealed permanently with a little fire. Well, actually, a lot of fire, burning at nearly 1600 degrees, or the temperature of lava. This baptism by fire ensures the trumpet can blare hot riffs without falling apart. Now the seam is secure, but it's thick, so the stem of the bell is completely flattened to even it all out. Then the worker starts shaping the bell. It must be perfectly cylindrical. If it's off, even the thickness of a piece of sheet music, the trumpet could hit a sour note. Now, workers concentrate on the flare of the bell. Size does matter here. A gradual taper produces a clearer, more brilliant sound, while an abrupt taper produces a duller, mellower sound. When the bell flaunts just the right shape, they trim off any excess brass. The bell gets a little added support too, kind of like an underwire bra just for a trumpet. By wrapping wire around the flare, folding the edges back, and then soldering it all together, the bell is better able to keep its shape. The trumpet has plenty of flair now, but still looks like an old-fashioned horn. All that's about to change. By curving the tube, the trumpet sound will be transformed. But how do you bend a delicate instrument without crushing it? All it takes is a little ice. This worker plugs the bell and fills the flared end with water. Then it's into the freezer with liquid nitrogen at 90 degrees below zero. That's colder than the summit of Mount Everest. The liquid inside the bell turns to ice in about 8 minutes. The ice's job is simple, supporting the tube as it's bent back on itself. That's one curve down, 4 more to go. All the twists and turns connect to the valves. There are 3 in total, and they are the heart of the instrument. By pressing down on these valves and the pistons inside, you can play all the notes in the scale. This is what separates today's trumpet from its ancestors. How does it work? With all the valves open, air comes straight down the tube and out the bell. But when a valve is closed with the finger button, it diverts the air into a side tube or slide, producing a lower note. The longer the tube, the further the air travels, and the lower the note. Once the horn hits the stage, a musician can press more than one finger button at a time, producing a different sound with each combination. But it won't reach that full sound until they add the rest of the hardware. After all the harsh temperatures and intense assembly, the trumpet gets a rest. A luxurious bath. And a shower too. The valves need to be squeaky clean for a clear sound, so this guy rubs the inside until smooth. A final touch, mother of pearl finger buttons, adding more flair to the flair of the trumpet. This baby may look great, but you still can't play it. That's because a key component is missing, the mouthpiece. You know, it's where you put your lips together and just blow. Before its big premiere, each trumpet has to ace the audition. A musician checks out its performance and sound. If it doesn't meet Con Selmer's exacting standards, it's back to the factory. Those that pass are ready to make music all around the world. Footballs have been thrown, caught, kicked, and fumbled into sports history for more than 100 years. And nearly all of them are made at the Wilson Football Factory in Ada, Ohio. The one and only official U.S. supplier to the NFL since 1941. Think about it. They've made every Super Bowl winning ball. The plant's 150 workers churn out 700,000 balls a year. That's 4,000 a day, in sizes from pee-wee to pro. Though it's known as a pigskin, more on that later, the outer leather of the regulation ball is actually made of cowhide. It tans easily and resists tearing, even under the crushing weight of a pile of bruising 300-pound linemen. Before it gets to the factory, the leather's surface is pebbled to make it easier to grip, rain or shine. And if you look really closely, you'll see tiny W's impressed into the leather, the mark of a genuine Wilson ball. A cookie cutter die slices 4 matched panels for each ball from the leather. The strongest leather comes from the cow's back, so the NFL balls are cut from there. After the quarters are sliced, these cow hides are branded far from the corral. They're stamped according to the model of football being made. There's plenty of room here for custom tattoos, like the Wilson brand name, manufacturing info, team logos, and commemorative details. Sewing the 4 panels together is next. A single stray stitch and the whole ball will have to be punted. The worker also leaves a 2-inch gap, just enough for the ball to be turned inside out. Sixteen holes are then punched out for the lacing. This ball's gotta be tough to compete. But first, it needs to take a little steam. 30 seconds to be exact. The goal? To soften the leather so the ball can be turned right side out. Sounds easy, right? Wilson tried to automate the process, but discovered that machines can't finesse the leather without tearing it. So the job is back in human hands. Try the same thing with a sneaker, and you'll get an idea of how tough a task this is. After years on the job, this worker can turn a ball in just 30 seconds. Now it's time to turn this finished hide into a ball that can hold air. That's where a bladder joins the lineup. During the early days of football in the late 19th century, they stuffed an inflated pig's bladder into each ball. That gave the ball its shape and the nickname pigskin. Polyurethane helped drop the pig from the roster, making footballs more uniform and a whole lot less prone to rotting. The lacing process is next. and a little squirt of air makes the ball much easier to stitch. These laces keep the seams together, and they also help keep the quarterback from losing grip, so he can deliver that perfect spiral pass with pinpoint accuracy. Finally, it's time to give the football its signature shape. Overinflating the ball with a whopping 120 pounds of pressure tightens the laces and smooths out the seams. After 60 seconds, the compressor automatically deflates the ball to the game standard 12 to 15 pounds of air pressure. Now it looks like a football, but until it passes the final tryout, it may not be fit for play. These inspectors are harsher than any coaching staff. Each ball must weigh in at 14 to 15 ounces and measure a precise 21 1/8 inches around the middle, or they're not regulation. The laces must be secure and even, and the surface perfect for handling, running, and passing. Any football that doesn't meet Wilson's strict standards is tossed out. But every football that does pass muster could be on its way to tomorrow's record books.
接下来，超级强权大比拼，北美重型机器挑战欧洲钢铁怪兽，超猛机器王，欧美大赛就在 Discovery 热门9点档接着播出。